It's showtime, folks. Enjoy the show.
And a fine good morning to you, Andy.
Morning.
Well, that's a new thing, is it? Morning. That's very charming.
I just started it.
I feel like we're on a farm.
I feel like there's gonna be a trend of that now. In 10 years, everybody will be saying that in the morning, and people go, "God, I wonder how that started."
And they won't even remember because you will have long since become food for worms in obscurity, but they'll still be saying morning.
In 10 years, I hope I'm not food for worms. Wow, man!
I'm sorry, man.
What a
really
dark
sorry.
vision.
I missed the date. You're right. No, you're still. That's my bad. Really, seriously, my bad.
And good morning to you.
Good morning to you. Your days are numbered.
That's right. Oh, man!
Wow! It's Labor Day weekend.
It is.
What do you have going on? Are you?
I guess that's it.
In
the
U.S.
States thing, right?
Yeah. Because we're not very good at taking time off here in the States, so we have to be told to by national holiday.
That's right. You must take this day off. To have European type holidays.
Oh dear.
I think I'd fit in really well.
Me too. Me too.
It's time for your annual 3-week break. Oh, okay. Already?
Well, I'll take it. Whatever. What are you doing this weekend? Anything big?
Not really. My daughter's off at camp, so she's having fun. We're just going to try to do some fun stuff with our son, and then I don't know. Once Monday rolls around and everybody's back together, we haven't really worked out a plan. I mean, we're hoping to do something fun, but nothing is planned yet. So we're procrastination planners.
Oh yeah, last minute holiday planning.
Mm-hmm.
I totally get that. We, my wife and daughter went camping for the weekend, so it's me and my son. He is still sleeping as we record this, but that usually means we pretty much watch movies straight through all weekend long. But we just watch them, on whatever's new on Netflix, and so we see kind of what's going on. And last night, he did not want to watch what I want to watch. Thank God, I finally watched What Happened to Monday.
Hey, there you go. Because,
I'd seen like the first 20 minutes, and it's not so bad. There's the whole finger thing, but that's not so bad. And so I thought, well, maybe he'd like to watch it with me, but he didn't want to watch it with me. So he got this is absurd. It's going to make me sound like a terrible father. He got out the tablet and headphones and started watching something he wanted to watch on the couch next to me. So we had two movies going at the same time. And then here I am watching What Happened to Monday on the bigger screen. And it gets into some fairly racy stuff.
Yeah.
With old Noomy. Fairly racy stuff. Yeah. And he's got his eyes glued to that tablet and his headphones on. I didn't want to make a big deal out of it because I didn't want him to look up. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like it's that place. You don't want him to look up. If you move at all, he'll look up and see what's on screen.
Meanwhile, your breathing's getting faster.
Exactly.
Sweat's beating on your forehead.
That very, very still. Like there's, goodness, there's a tarantula on my back. Yes, very still. And I have to say, successfully, good parenting moment. The moment passed. He never saw it. And we got through the entire rest of the movie, and he didn't peek once. And I have to tell you, Andy, that was an exceptionally fun ride.
Yeah, it really was a really interesting story. I loved the concept. I loved the world that they created. I was blown away by just the digital replacements to create all the Noomies. I mean, it really was just mind-boggling sometimes because I was like, this is too perfect. I mean, it really tripped me out. I
know that I was letterboxed hungover last night after just watching it, and I'm sure there are things that on a next viewing I will find wrong with it. But this was a hard 5-star with a heart for me because I had such a good time. The only thing I was disappointed in, I suppose there's a spoiler horn. The whole concept, I won't say what it was because it's pretty new. But the whole concept, you're feeling that when what was that movie where you wrote a script for it long ago, or something, and then they made the movie, and you got so mad you couldn't talk about it?
Oh, 2 Minutes, when they made Source Code.
Source Code, right. Okay, so this was my feeling here. I wrote a short story in college that I'm podcasting outside. That's my dog.
Yeah.
Yep. Anyhow,
He just realized.
Yeah.
You're not in here with me.
Well, it'll pass. Anyhow, I wrote a short story in college where it took place in a prison, and instead of sending prisoners to the hold, there was this, because science, they turned them into fuel for spaceships. And so the prisoners would just disappear, and they would go off, and suddenly they would come, they wouldn't be around anymore, and they would never come back, but they never told, you never told anybody. It was a big political thing. Hang on. Hey, rodent. It's just a rodent. Stop. Are squirrels rodents?
Yes.
Goodness, you are such a good dog for podcasting. Why do you have to be such a crazy person? Okay, here we go. Anyway, so they never told it. It was a political thing, and it was my favorite thing that I wrote in college. It was a really fun story, and this, let's just say, has hints of my story to it. It bugged me a little bit. They make it worse in this movie. They make it worse.
Yeah, it's pretty awful.
It's awful.
But it was a really great concept. I love seeing Numi in it. I didn't love it quite as much as you did, but I really loved just the sci-fi concept of it, and I had a great time with the film.
Totally worth seeing.
Yeah, and I actually really liked. I don't think this is really too spoilery, but I thought Glenn Close's character's speech at the end of the film, like I really liked that. I'm like, that was a really a nice way for that element to wrap up. I don't know. I just really
totally agree with you. And you know what? There were a couple of moments right at the end, one after another, that were really nice surprises. They took the story they pivoted the story in ways that I didn't see coming. Yeah. And that happens really rarely anymore. And so I really appreciate it when it does happen. I thought it was great.
Cool.
A lot of fun.
Awesome.
Let's talk a little bit about the numbers, shall we? Our friends at ComScore sent us the historicals, Labor Day historicals. What do you have to talk about?
Well, it's interesting looking at the last 10 years of Labor Day weekends, looking at the 4-day Labor Day weekend total, Friday through Monday, from 2007 to 2016. The peak weekend that happened was in 2013. And that was with Lee Daniels, the Butler, opening. That was the top movie over the weekend, making $20.2 million over the 4-day haul. But that was like the best of the best. It even beat the weekend when Guardians of the Galaxy was playing in 2014. Granted, that it hadn't opened that weekend, but still, it still took the weekend. That was 20 million less that weekend ended up making.
Well, and so wait a minute. So I want to make sure I understand it, because Guardians of the Galaxy actually individually took in more than Lee Daniels, the Butler.
Right. But
the
overall,
weekend,
right, correct. The
lost
weekend, yeah, and
significantly.
Other movies over the last 10 years had made more than Lee Daniels, the Butler did on that weekend. But the weekend itself, that was the best weekend, and Lee Daniels, the Butler, happened to be leading the charge that weekend. Now this weekend, it's really interesting. I don't know what's going on in the industry, but apparently, according to Box Office Mojo, it's been 25 years since Labor Day weekend has not had a new film debut in over 1,000 theaters. So the big, quote, new release this weekend is actually the re-release of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, opening in 901 locations. Tulip Fever opened, but that's a limited release at like 765 screens. And then I think there's the Spanish language film Hazlo con Hombre, or Como Hombre, which opened in a few theaters. But otherwise, people are saying, oh, it's going to be another weekend for The Hitman's Bodyguard.
Wow.
Over on the numbers, they had this little thing I just thought I'd read. I think it's pretty interesting and telling. There are many ways of measuring how slow things are in movie theaters this weekend. The fact that there are no new wide releases, for example, or that we're quite likely going to see the worst overhaul weekend at the box office in 20 years. But one that encapsulates the poor options for theater owners right now is that Cars 3, which is pretty much a dud by Pixar's standards and is entering its 4th month in release, will be playing in the most new theaters this weekend as it expands back from 214 to 2,445 locations. When a film that earned $787 per theater last weekend, $787 last weekend gets that kind of expansion, you know things are really bad. Yeah.
What?
That's a huge jump. 214 to 2,445 screens.
Wow. Why is that happening?
I don't know. It's like it's a big holiday weekend. I don't know why somebody didn't say, "Hey, nobody's opening that weekend. Let's jump in."
That is insane.
Yeah, and I think just from the one night, I think Close Encounters already had a pretty good start too, which is I guess that's good for it, but it's just so strange for everything else.
A 40-year-old movie is going to have the biggest weekend in the box office over Labor Day 2017.
I don't think it'll have the biggest weekend. I think Hitman's Bodyguard is still going to beat it, but still.
You know, I've been told I look like Ryan Reynolds. Apropos of nothing.
I've been told I look like Samuel L. Jackson.
Shall we talk trailers?
Let's.
My trailer this week, Andy, is Marshall. This is a biopic about the young Thurgood Marshall, the first African-American Supreme Court justice, as he battles through one of his career-defining cases. Comes from director Reginald Hudlin, writers Jacob Koskoff and Michael Koskoff, and stars Dan Stevens, Sophia Bush, Kate Hudson, Chadwick Boseman as Marshall himself, James Cromwell, the funny Josh Gad, and Sterling K. Brown, among others. I chose this trailer. I think the trailer looks terrific. I think it does a good job of telling the story and building intensity for the story of Marshall and showing Thurgood Marshall in a non-Supreme Court justice light. And I really appreciate that. I think it's I love it when these biopics actually show us an example of the person as apart from what we know them as the icon, right? But also Chadwick Boseman. So he's got James Brown, he's done Jackie Robinson, and now Thurgood Marshall. He is collecting. He is a collector of the best biopic roles right now. What is going on with this guy? He is just nailing his jobs.
Well, and I hear T'Challa in Black Panther is also a biopic.
I can't believe I left that joke open for you, frankly.
I can't either. Thank you. And good morning to you, sir.
And hello. All right. So, what'd you think of my trailer?
Oh, it looks fantastic. This just looks like a really strong biopic. It looks like it's an interesting story with fascinating characters that I'm all about. It's the sort of thing that I really want to check out. And Chadwick Boseman, you're right. He's one of those actors who is just kind of mesmerizing to watch. I really enjoy what he brings to the screen, and I can't wait to see it. And then having him paired with Josh Gad, who normally is such a comedic actor, but sometimes comedic actors can be some of the best dramatic actors, and seeing him pop into this one really makes me excited. So I'm very excited to see this one, and I hadn't heard much about it, so having a chance to see the trailer finally got me pretty excited.
Let me tell you what makes me nervous. Can I tell you what makes me nervous?
Tell me.
I was a fan of House Party. I thought House Party was very funny in 1990. Boomerang I was not as crazy about.
Okay.
Now this is you see where I'm going here. I was also not as crazy about, speaking of your likeness, Samuel L. Jackson, The Great White Hype. I wasn't as crazy about that. I wasn't as crazy about The Ladies' Man. Right? Do you remember the Ladies' Man? Yeah,
I try not to.
Yeah. So we've got a string of movies leading up to Serving Sarah. This, of course, is the Matthew Perry, Elizabeth Hurley Bruce Campbell vehicle from 2002. All of these films were directed by Reginald Hudlin, and then nothing, a lot of television, one after another after another. He started producing a lot, and now we have Marshall, right? A full 15 years after the last feature that he directed, and it is a wildly different tone. And maybe it's the fact that we needed that tonal change. We needed 15 years to allow him to change kind of his vision. This movie looks nothing like anything he's ever done. So I'm curious and I'm nervous. The caliber of the cast and as hot as they are right now, I cannot imagine them taking a film that is helmed by a director of questionable cultural taste and repute. But I am nervous about it.
Yeah, I can see that. It's one of those things where I hope he can carry it. Yeah, I guess we'll have to give it a shot and see how it goes. Maybe
we will. We're going to roll the dice together, Andy. You and me. If we have a little faith, we can see it through. It comes out October 13th. So as soon as we're finished seeing Blade Runner, we can go see this one.
Ooh.
The next weekend.
I like that.
All right. What's your trailer?
Well, Pete, I went for a little laugh this week for my trailer, and I picked Killing Gunther, which just really had me in stitches watching the trailer. It's just a really goofy hitman kind of assassination movie. So it's an action comedy that Taron Killam wrote and directed. He is of Saturday Night Live fame and has certainly been around the comedy circles in film and TV, and is just one of those guys who pops up in pretty funny roles. He's going to be acting in this also, but the real reason that I picked this, Pete, is because Arnold Schwarzenegger plays Gunther, and it's this group of hitmen trying to kill Gunther, and it just, I don't know what Schwarzenegger is channeling, but just the way his hair was styled just made me laugh. Sometimes Schwarzenegger can do really funny things in comedy, and he's taken this interesting kind of turn since he was the governor of California, and just his new movies that he's been doing. I just love it. It's really funny, and watching him just doing all of this and just remembering him as this former politician now. Like, it would have been interesting to see Reagan jump back into film after he was president. But, he was a little more presidential than that. I have a feeling Trump will probably pull a Schwarzenegger and he'll jump back into reality TV when he's done. But for now, we have Schwarzenegger, and I'm glad we do, because this looks really funny. What did you think?
Oh, I thought it was hysterical. I really did. And the cast is fantastic. Allison Tolman looks great. Bobby Moynihan, are you kidding? Boom, boom, trying to get that going.
That was great.
Riot. So there is a lot of really funny stuff going on in this movie. And by the end, when Schwarzenegger is I think he's beating up kill him. Go ahead, kill me. Kill me. I can't get enough. This is this is the kind of thing, and I enjoyed Maggie. I think I'm on the record of saying I enjoyed Maggie. That and this, there is very little in between for Schwarzenegger. I'm not crazy about some of the more serious action explodey stuff, the geriatric action, but this kind of lampoon action I think is very, very funny. So it is very funny. For it.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see, and this is kind of unrelated, but he's in pre-production on a movie called Triplets, which makes me wonder if it's a sequel to Twins.
Oh, no. I'm not sure.
Actually, it is. Ivan Reitman's directing it, and Josh Gad, speaking of your trailer, is one of the writers on it, and it also has Eddie Murphy in it.
I don't know. Oh, God.
And The Legend of Conan.
I'm open-minded.
He's going to be Conan. Yeah, you gotta be. You gotta be, man.
Oh, Legend of Conan. That made my day just now. That's fantastic. I will see. I will absolutely see that.
It's really interesting. Yeah. Anyway, no, this one's going to be coming out. It looks like October 20th is all I have. I'm not sure how big a release that is, but certainly something that I want to check out.
Absolutely. All right, Andy. The other thing I mentioned Blade Runner, but I forgot to talk about it in the beginning. Are you up to what Denis Villeneuve is doing with Blade Runner? Speaking of trailers that aren't trailers.
Tell me, what is that Denis up to?
Denis is up to this. He's doing this thing where he is he's asking his dear director friends, to make shorts, these 5-minute shorts that tell the story of what happened in the 30+ years between the disappearance of Deckard and Blade Runner 2049, and a lot happened. And back in Comic-Con, they released a timeline of events, like major business and political events that happened between these two films, and it's fascinating. I mean, creating the landscape is fascinating, and so these short films, are going to tell the story of the replicant. Well, I don't know what the last 2 films are, 3 total, and the first one was just released, starring Patrick Wong and Jared Leto, and it is it's the story of the rebirth of the replicants after they were prohibited. So it's the end of Prohibition, and it's fascinating, and it looks good. It's tonally looks just like the film. I have to tell you, it's doing what it needs to do. It's getting me more excited for Blade Runner. It is unlocking the door to my inner child under the stairs.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to get excited about Blade Runner 2049 yet because I'm still just bothered that they're making a sequel to it.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that when I see it, I will finally see the light. And I am excited about watching these. I always enjoy these little kind of bits and pieces that filmmakers put out there for you to kind of really just kind of, flesh out that world and build to the story. It's not necessary, but it's always fun to kind of include that. I really enjoyed the Guy Pearce TED Talk from Prometheus.
Yep.
And so this one I haven't watched it yet, but I'm definitely curious, and seeing that they're going to do these. You said there are 3 of them. Is that what
3
they're
of
doing?
them? Yes, that's the idea.
That are going to kind of fill in the 30-year time period between the first film and the second one.
Yep.
I think that's pretty cool. So
I think so too. And it's not like Covenant did it poorly. I think there was a one of these that happened in Covenant that I think should have been part of the film, and so I'm not crazy about how it's done in some of these cases. The Matrix is the one that I remember that did it really, really well, where there's a series of beautiful animated films that came along with the Animatrix that I think there were 6 of them, maybe more.
More. I think it was like 9.
9 of them, and they were all wonderful. And I remember the racing one, the sprinting one was just horrifying and fantastic. So I really love it when they do this. This seems like totally appropriate in Blade Runner, so that we actually get to see what happened in these 30 years, and I think it fills out the universe, and so I'm pretty excited about it. So anyway, there you go. Trailer, not trailer. What's the list today?
Well, today, considering we just talked about Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, in which Sybok raises kind of a bunch of cultist believers who want to follow him on his pursuit to find God, we thought, hey, let's talk about films that have interesting cults in them. So our favorite films about cults, not our favorite cult films. Because then I know we'd be talking about Hudson Hawk.
Right. One of these days, Andy. One of these days.
It's coming.
I've got to tell you, man, I really struggled with this.
Did you really?
I did. And you know why? There are a lot of films about cultists.
Oh, well, yes. To that end, yes. I struggled too.
Well, that's one. And 2, I just have not seen very many of them. I seriously, I really struggled to find those that I've seen. I don't know. I feel like I've missed an entire genre of films. And those are the
series.
Cult films. I probably. So those that I picked here may not be the best representations of the genre, but they're the best of the ones that I've seen. So there you go.
I see. Okay.
In one case, the worst.
Well, I've got a questionable one on my list too, even though I like it. So we'll see.
All right. You want me to go first?
Or
would you like to go?
Kick it off. Or do you want,
Okay.
whatever.
Okay. Well, I'm going to start with the worst.
Okay.
Fidelio, Andy. Fidelio. I hated Eyes Wide Shut. I hated it so much. I wanted to love it. Kubrick directs Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. It's a crazy sex cult flick. How could you be bored with a sex cult movie, Andy? And yet I was. It was tremendously difficult to watch. And I just couldn't get through it. And so I put it as the bottom of my list of cult films that I've seen because somebody needs to stand up for this film being terrible.
I love that film.
How did I not see that coming?
Well, it's interesting because when I first saw it, I wasn't overly excited by it either. But since kind of revisiting Kubrick's films, I don't know. I just ended up finding so much more to that film. So I think that you should revisit it.
I knew you were going to say that too. I knew you are so predictable. How did it
Little
be
me?
that I don't like a movie and so it's my fault? Watch it again. You're doing it wrong. Watch it again.
Isn't that how it works? Except when it's me.
Right. What's the bottom of the barrel for Andy this morning?
So the bottom of the barrel, this one is a movie that I love, even though I can't qualify it as a good film. But because of my love for Tom Hanks, Pete, and you know that that's a strong one.
Oh my God!
I have to include Dragnet.
Dragnet.
Yeah. I don't know how well you remember the the possibly wrong way to write the Dragnet film is to turn it into a slapstick comedy with Tom Hanks and Dan Aykroyd. But that's what they did, and I still love it. From 1987, directed by Tom Mankiewicz. This was more of a parody of the kind of the original story, but it's about Joe Friday and Pep Streebek as they are trying to figure out what's going on with this mysterious cult called Pagan, the People Against Goodness and Normalcy, headed up by none other than the fantastic Christopher Plummer. And
that's your connection there.
I know, connection to Star Trek 6,
Well done.
absolutely. And it's just, Christopher Plummer plays this Reverend Jonathan Worley, who's kind of in business with a porn publisher, Jerry Caesar, played by Dabney Coleman. And Plummer secretly also heads this cult, and they're planning on doing this virgin sacrifice of the Virgin Connie Swale, who Joe Friday falls in love with, and so they have to go and rescue her and stop the pagan sacrifice and the ritual and everything. And it's so silly, it's really nonsense, but it still has a place in my heart. So there you go, my number 3.
I can't believe. Well, maybe you've already said it. You said Tom Hanks in Cult, and you picked that?
I wasn't going to go
great.
with one of the other ones. Are you thinking of the Dan Brown ones?
No, although that's another great one. I'm thinking of your favorite, The Burbs, Joe Dante.
I don't know if I can call that a cult because it's just a family.
Well, they're convinced that they're part of a satanic cult.
Yeah, but they're not. So I don't know. I don't think I could fairly call that one a cult.
All right. Well, you're all about the fair.
You know me.
Okay. My number 2. Okay, here we go. This one I do stand behind. And it's a little bit predictable because I think I think a lot of people actually like this movie. This is Martha, Mercy, May, Marlene, directed by Sean Durkin, starring Elizabeth Olsen and the creeptastic John Hawkes, one of our favorites around these parts. This movie gets in my head. It does such a great job. I think Elizabeth Olsen does such a tremendous job of being broken in this movie that it makes it an absolute standout. Like the journey that we get to see her going through is fantastic. You're never quite sure what's memory, what's real, what is time hopping. I think the movie just does a tremendous job of dealing with the sort of multiple personality breakdown that comes from being in and out of a cult. That it's absolutely worth seeing.
That was a really interesting one, and I completely agree with you about Elizabeth Olsen. Sometimes I marvel that she's the sister to the Olsen twins. She's just so good. And on Sarmento's recommendation, I did see Wind River this past week, and just was again blown away by her incredible performance. She's just an amazing actress. I wasn't in love with the film. I really didn't like how it ended, but I can understand that. I really, really loved her and John Hawkes in that film. They both were real standouts. Yeah, truly. So that's a favorite for me on this list. Excellent. Well, I agree. I think that's a fantastic choice. Number two for you, sir. Number two for me. It's not one of my favorite films, but I found it a really compelling horror film about cults, and something that I think was just really creepy to watch. I had a really good time just watching this, because it's a horror film that gives you a real sense of dread about this cult story that we're following. And that is Clive Barker's 1995 film, Lord of Illusions. That film, like you've got this fantastic Daniel von Bargen as Nyx, this kind of cult leader, where they're going to sacrifice this girl that they've kidnapped, and he can use magic, and it's just really creepy. And this detective has to try to bring him down. Scott Bakula plays the detective, and it's not one of the greatest films, but there's something about Clive Barker in his storytelling and the way that he kind of creates these horror worlds that it really it kind of puts me off. And in a way that just makes me uncomfortable, in the way that I think an effective horror film can sometimes do. And I think he does it really well. So that's my number two. That is a great pick, first of all. And I think Clive Barker is one of those storytellers that I would like to see us do more Clive Barker. I'd be curious to go through some of Clive Barker's films together. I'd be really interested in that. This one, I remember there were some horror elements in this one that were really subtle and small, like not these grand sort of magical effects, but very small and truly horrific images that I just couldn't get out of my head for a really long time, right? Lips and like the lips, really, God, really gross. And I'm not crazy about the horror stuff, but boy, his stuff stays with me. Interesting. Yeah. Good pick. Pick. Well, thank you. My number one, Andy, is I'm still maybe a touch predictable, but Jordan Peele's, dare I say, race baiting? Is that what we could call it? Still sits in as my favorite film of the year, I think. Bradley Whitford and Catherine Keener in Get Out. They are, we'll call them cult shepherds. The sequence of Bradley Whitford leading the silent auction in Get Out is just horrible and terrific. And that film, Daniel Kaluuya and Allison Williams are super satisfyingly trippy relationshipers, and I get frustrated by some of the horror tropes at work in the film, but I really adore it, and I adore what the film is saying. I think it's just a really great film, and I'm so glad that a film from 2017 could end up on my favorite cult films list. That is a fantastic choice that didn't even pop into my head. I was going through so many cult films that I'm like, I can't believe I missed that one. So obvious. Oh, so disappointed in myself. But no, as good as that one is, I had a few that I've been wrestling with as far as which one I'm going to pick for my number one. But I'm going to go with this one because just like Lord of Illusions, this film had scenes in it that made me so uncomfortable that the film as a horror film was just satisfyingly effective. And it still gives me nightmares to this day. The film is Wes Craven's 1988 film, The Serpent and the Rainbow. Oh my God. And it's about this guy who goes down to investigate this story of somebody in Haiti who was poisoned, buried alive, and then revived as kind of this zombie. Buried alive. And Bill Pullman plays this, I can't remember if he's a scientist. I think he's kind of a scientist sort of guy. And he goes down there and gets trapped into this kind of cultish world of this voodoo and this, this hallucinogenic potions and just horrifying visions. The film was just full of just visual awfulness that just really kind of just turned my stomach watching. Most notably, the giant spike. And I think that's probably all I need to say, because anyone who knows the film knows exactly what scene I'm talking about. It just really made me uncomfortable. So that's my number one cult film.
That is a great pick. And like you not remembering Get Out, I can't believe Serpent and the Rainbow didn't cross my mind. That absolutely would have been on my list too. Yeah. Great choice. I'm glad it didn't. I can't believe we didn't have any overlap.
I know. I was close to doing Eyes Wide Shut, but I had to cross it off. So
Fidelio, Andy. Fidelio. What are we doing this week on the main show? What are we doing, and how is this going to connect to next week's list? Do you have an idea?
That's a good question. So Star Trek VI, the Undiscovered Country. I don't know. What do you want to do? We could do Shakespeare. We could do
films about Nixon.
Films about Nixon or Lincoln or Gorbachev or Chernobyl.
Right. Maybe it's
we should do like assassination films.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Oh, that's really good. Okay, top assassination films.
Yeah. Okay.
And this is plot capers, right? Like.
Yeah, like there's an assassination attempt, and people are trying to foil it before it happens.
Yes, there's thwarting and foiling going on. Oh, I like this a lot. This is going to be really fun. All right, so that's all we've got on the list for today.
Yep, that's it.
All right. Hey, thank you, everybody, Patreon supporters, for subscribing and supporting everything that we do at The Next Reel. We sure appreciate. We appreciate you throwing a few ducats our way, and we think about every Saturday morning. We're thinking about all of you. So thanks
Absolutely.
for doing that, and thanks for loving film as much as we do. That's it, Andy. I'm getting out of here.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Bye.